We're continuing to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month by discussing some of the most important issues to the Hispanic community. And everyone's attention has turned to the upcoming election. Both candidates are pushing hard to win over Latinos, one of the largest voting blocs in the U.S. And many are concerned that both candidates still don't truly understand some of the top priorities for the Hispanic community. So with us now is CBS News contributor María Elena Salinas. Maria has been reporting on the Hispanic community for nearly 40 years. She is one of the most recognized Hispanic journalists in the world. The New York Times called you a voice for Hispanic America. You also happen to be really, really cool, and we love talking to you. So we're really glad that we have access to you. So keeping all of that in mind, what have you seen and heard this year from members of the Hispanic community that maybe surprised you or that you wish more people knew and understood?
Hello, Anne-Marie. Nice to be with you one more time. I think one of the things that I've seen is that Latino voters are just as divided as the rest of the country. And the discourse is also just as divided and as contentious as in the rest of the country. So much so that I have found myself with the need to, on my Facebook page, remind people not to insult each other because it's gotten really, really, really nasty. But, you know, also one of the things I've noticed is that people are more engaged. Traditionally, the Latino vote has been low, and this time I see that people are so much more engaged, so much more in tune with what is happening in this country, which is their country.
To echo what Anne-Marie said, you know, I met you a couple of years ago when you just joined CBS News, and we were together at the National Association for Hispanic Journalists convention in Florida. And Anne-Marie, it was like walking around with Madonna. I mean, we were surrounded by people wherever we went, and that's because María Elena, you've had such a strong career in the community, not just the Hispanic community, but in just reporting all over this country and all over the world. But I want to know how things have changed in the community over the course of your career, and if some of the things, most recently in the last 5 or 10 years, have impacted the Hispanic community.
Thank you so much, Vlad. It's a pleasure walking next to you. Then that's why I get the attention, because I'm walking next to you.
I don't think
that's
so.
That's how it happens. Well, I think a lot of things have changed since I started reporting. At the time when I began my career in the early 80s, there were 14 million Latinos, and now there are over 16 million Latinos in the country. And we have not only grown in numbers, but also in sophistication. Now you see that the Latino community is a very important voting bloc. I mean, we're in the middle of an election, so it's important to mention that out of the 60 million Latinos, 80% are U.S. citizens. 60% of those are U.S. born. Another 20% are naturalized citizens. So they're beginning to flex their political muscle, to say it one way. So they have grown. There's a lot of influence. And also one of the things that has changed is that they are more bilingual. 2/3 of Latinos are either bilingual or speak English only. And also we're a very young community. 40% of Latino voters are between the ages of 18 to 49, and they're very engaged. So you do see that change. You do see that they are so much more in tune. I think now most Latinos are U.S. citizens as to before. When I started working, the growth in the Latino community was through immigration. Now the growth in the Latino community is through birth. Every 30 seconds, a Latino turns 18. So we're growing fast, and we're a young community.
So I don't think you can even have a discussion about the upcoming election without recognizing the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the individual health of a population, but also the economic health. Hispanics have been impacted greatly. Can we talk about how this pandemic may have affected the Hispanic vote?
Oh, it definitely does affect it because, as you said, the Latino community has been hard hit. Not only the most infections, the most deaths, the most loss of jobs, the most loss of income. So it is impacting, and they are paying a lot of attention to what the candidates are doing. And as I mentioned before, a lot of the Latino voters are young, and to them, the number one issue is the pandemic. Not only because they have been affected personally with jobs and with income, but they have seen their parents, their grandparents, their uncles, their older family members die from this pandemic. So it is a very important political issue for them. In fact, it is the number one issue, healthcare and the pandemic, followed, of course, by, like everyone else, jobs and the economy and social justice. And then the last one is, and it'll be interesting to you because a lot of people think that immigration is the number one issue, or it's up there, and not necessarily. Latino voters care more right now about discrimination, about harassment, about hate crimes that are affecting the Latino community, and those are the things that they're concerned about. But healthcare and the pandemic is the number one issue that Latino voters are looking for in a candidate. How are they going to handle it? How is their community going to be able to move forward?
Yeah, and of course, Maria, if you watched the debate last night and you are Latino in this country, you didn't get any sense of that. Latinos were not mentioned once, not even during the COVID segment. Now, I'd probably blame that on the moderator for not representing the community. But is that disheartening for people to know that that increasingly Hispanics are making up a larger and larger portion of this electorate, and yet when it comes to the issues, when it comes to candidates who want their vote, who are courting their vote, they very often don't hear a lot about what they can do to better the community?
You're right. I think, I would like to say that we are used to it, but, we should never get used to something that is not right. So we shouldn't be used to it. There's never been a Latino moderator in a presidential debate. There have been in the primaries. I myself have moderated a few debates, so have some of my colleagues in Spanish language media, but never for a presidential debate. And the issues, even though Latinos care about the same issues that mainstream America, I mean, we are part of mainstream America. We're Americans too. We care about those issues. We care about healthcare. We care about jobs in the economy. There's no specific mention or specific question of what they're going to do for the Latino community that has been hardest hit with some of these issues. Also, they haven't addressed topics like discrimination and harassment and the hate crimes, and we have seen that increase. And when it comes to immigration, there are issues that are very important to Latinos, such as DACA and the Dreamers. What is each one of the candidates going to do about that? I mean, that is an important issue. And there's so many ways of looking at the immigration issue, and it's just not mentioned. It's almost like a bad word, to talk about immigration it's very negative. But in reality, what Latinos want to hear is, are you going to recognize us as Americans? Are you going to recognize the fact that we have issues? Are you going to change the discourse when you're referring to immigrants? Are you going to change the rhetoric and recognize the contributions that Latinos make to this country? So, it would be good. I know we still have 2 more debates, and we are hoping that in the next 2 debates, the moderators will bring up some of these issues that attract Latino voters.
I remember during the primaries, some campaigns sort of being praised for their outreach, and because they had translated some of their written material into Spanish, or they were sending Spanish speakers into predominantly Spanish-speaking neighborhoods, and it just seemed so basic. And I remember thinking, that doesn't quite seem like enough. And then, we recall Joe Biden sort of stumbling through his answer. He was talking about the African-American vote. He just stumbled through the answer about how the Latino vote is diverse. And it just seems like presidents and presidential candidates have a hard time truly understanding the Latino vote. They often sort of lean on immigration as if that's the only issue. And you point out it's a significant issue, but it's not the only issue. Why do you think presidents have such a hard time understanding the Latino voters?
Right. It's not the only issue. It's just not the top issue. You're right. I have to say that Joe Biden, maybe he didn't phrase it well, but he's right. The Latino vote is very diverse, and that's what the problem is. The Latino vote is not monolithic. When you're trying to cater to the Latino community, the challenge is how they vary. They vary because depending on state to state, depending on what their roots are, what countries they come from. So you have to change your message depending on which state you're at, or which Latino community you're catering to, whether it's Cuban Americans or Mexican Americans or South Americans, Central Americans or Puerto Ricans. You sort of have to, acknowledge what their interests are, what their concerns are, what their worries are. So that's one of the things that makes it difficult for them to reach out. And, you know, yesterday I was interviewing someone for a story I'm working on for CTM on the Latino vote in Arizona and Florida. And we were just, you know, kind of joking about that up to now, when they want to cater to the Cuban vote, they come to Miami, they go to Versailles, they have a little Cuban coffee, they dance salsa, and they think that's it. That's all we're going to be able to do. Or they go to California and put on a Mexican hat and participate in the Mexican Independence Day parade and eat tacos. And that's just not the way to reach the Latino vote. You have to listen to them. You have to acknowledge their existence. But there are real challenges there. If Latinos don't go out and vote, they will be ignored. And right now, Latinos are the second largest voting bloc in the country after whites. 32 million Latinos are eligible to vote. The biggest challenge, though, is getting them to register and getting them to vote, because between 13 and 15 million are not registered. So a lot of the national Latino civic organizations are scrambling and working hard to get people to register to vote. And it seems like these organizations are doing more outreach to the Latino voters than the candidates themselves. So it is a true challenge, and I think it's all going to depend on turnout. If Latinos really do go out and vote this time, maybe in 4 years they won't be ignored anymore.
I love what you said about that sort of what I'd probably call pandering, María Elena. I mean, in my own family, I've got Dominican, I've got Peruvian, and I've got Spanish, like from Spain. And when those three get into a room, I mean, they don't agree on anything, and they're Americans. And so, you know, those are important points to make when we're talking about the Latino community in this country. And you know, you mentioned the piece on CTM that you're working on. You've also done a special report on Latinos and the coronavirus. Can you give us a little insight into the piece that you're working on for CBS this morning?
Well, we are looking at two states where that could be a deciding factor. That's Arizona and Florida. As we have heard, Arizona could possibly turn blue this 2020 election, and that would be thanks to the Latino vote. Latino voters in Arizona are very engaged. The increase in 2018 of voter turnout was tremendous. It was over 100%. And in Florida, Latinos are also motivated. But here you have two very different states with two very different set of voters. So we did go to both of these states. And well, I'm in Florida, so I came back from Arizona to talk to some people here to try to understand what interests them. And honestly, they're also divided, but they're also motivated. So I'm looking forward to that story for CTM, for CBS this morning. Hopefully, we will also be able to see it here on CBSN. I think it's important to understand. It's also important to listen to the voters and not just to the pundits, not just to the media, and not just to the politicians.
María Elena Salinas, I'm so proud that you're part of the CBS News family, and thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. It's really great. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie and Vlad. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Pandemia, Latinos in Crisis is an hour-long CBS News special focused on the impact of the coronavirus on the Latino community. María Elena Salinas, along with several other of our CBS News and CBSN reporters, are featured in the special, which you can watch at cbsnews.com/pandemia.